So Wolverine finally dons a new power-up, one that puts him on the same level or even greater than the Spirit of Vengeance or Ghost Rider, but it may come at the cost of one of his only surviving relatives, his son. Now this is the Hero Informer, and let's get into it. Now if you have been following along, you would know that this one wonky-eyed general has been the driving force behind this entire operation that even created these new Hellspawn. And now we finally get a little bit of a backstory and origin and what his entire deal is. So first things first, we basically, and well obviously, see that this guy isn't really that good of a person, which is no surprise, but as it turns out, this General Harms was as much of a villain before he got possessed, as the comic goes on to explain that he was a commander of a shadow unit. They waged wars that took place out of the media's gaze and basically committed war crimes and atrocities in almost every continent all across the world. And on one mission, he learned that the families of enemies are held up in an ancient church, and that they hung up a white flag to surrender. And what did this general and his team do? Well, he tore the flag right back down, barged in, and begun to kill all of the innocent people. And while in this ancient building and church, it seems like there were a couple relics, in which he specifically went to one of a skull of an ancient demon that was slain by a saint. And you know, as you do finding something crazy like this, he immediately goes to touch it with his bare hands, which I mean isn't the smartest, but he wasn't trained to be smart, he was trained to be a killing machine. And as he picks it up being distracted, it seems like one of the innocent people from before picks up a gun, shoots him point blank in the head, killing him on the spot. And as it will turn out, things couldn't have gone worse, as it is revealed that the bloodshed awakened something ancient and foul inside of the skull, something that whispered in his ear, that gave him an offer saying that as long as he would continue to carry out sacrifices, that this General Harms would live, but he would be loyal to the demonic forces first and the US government second. And with that, he accepted and was brought back, which of course reveals why he has one weird eye in the way that he does, and why he is even driven to do this entire Hellfire project in the first place. But moreover, we pick up back in present day, outside of Washington DC, where we see Logan, Wolverine, standing with a family in front of a burning house after he defeated and killed one of the destroyers. A mix between a human and Hellfire technology and power, but of course no matter how powerful it was, it couldn't stand up to the might of the Wolverine. And with the paramedics and firefighters arriving, the mother then decides to help Wolverine out for saving them, as she pulls him along to their garage, where she offers him a motorcycle to ride. And of course, it's good seeing Wolverine in his comic accurate height of being a manlet, pretty short but still pretty buff and strong, as he rides off on his new motorcycle to finally try and find his son, Dakin, who is currently the world's new HELLVERINE, a powerful fire entity that is on the same tier of power as Ghost Rider, which means he is no slouch. But moving to the Pentagon, we then pick up and see General Harms, and we see just how corrupted he truly is, as we see underneath his hat, his grotesque and deformed head, with literal horns coming out of his forehead, as he ponders what to do next and how he can take down this new HELLVERINE and the rogue Hellfire agents. That is, until he gets a call diverting his attention, as it will turns out one of the disabled war veterans has not only tracked him down but is now threatening his members. As you see before, the Hellfire agents, or destroyers, before being mutilated and turned into the creatures they are now, they were normal soldiers who had a bad turn and died, but not all of them. As you see, this man here in the wheelchair is one of the last surviving ones. And it seems he has figured everything out. He has figured out what is going on and how General Harms has turned his friends and former comrades into these hellish creatures. And so he thinks the only way to help and save them is for the general to turn him into one too, as he thinks if he is one, he can get through to his friends and tell them to basically chill out, calm down, and not try to kill everybody. But General Harms then points out that they have never tried it on a living subject, but he is sure that he can make something happen, as he agrees and tells the wheelchair-bound man, welcome to Project Hellfire. And speaking of Hellfire, we finally see what this new HELLVERINE, the son of Wolverine, is doing, as he is riding around on his new flame bike in his all-powerful HELLVERINE form. But as we see and find out, he isn't all himself, as the comic brings up some interesting themes. As you see, there was Dakin, but there was also BAGRA-GHUL, the powerful entity that gives him this new power. And together, they were the HELLVERINE. And with every passing hour, he was gaining more consciousness, getting a better awareness of his rebirth and what exactly he had become. As you see, even the Wolverine son, Dakin, is technically alive again, he isn't fully in control, as the comic even says as much. He gripped the handlebars, but he didn't control their direction, or maybe never. As you see, he was driven to live, but the HELLVERINE was only driven to punish sinners specifically like the destroyers. But until they made their next move, the HELLVERINE's sense of them remained dull, so he decides to wait it out, going up to the Washington Monument itself, using it as some kind of vantage point to wait out until he can sense the energy, sense the frequency of evil that people like the destroyers give off. But as a HELLVERINE waits idly by, we then move over where we see General Harm, as he meets with the Secretary of State, because as she goes on to say, they managed to silence the media for now, but word directly from the President and White House, if they don't get this Project Hellfire on the wraps soon, not only will she be forced to resign, but this wonky-eyed general will have to disappear. Now, whether that means in a shallow grave or deep into a federal prison, it's not explicitly clear, but either way, it's not looking good for him. But of course, he tries to argue back, saying that they have new developments. Their former squad leader has joined, and if they just have more time. But before he's able to say anything more, we see the destroyers, well, the last two of them anyway, finally arrive to take out General Harm once and for all. And as it would seem, these creatures are kind of unstoppable, at least anything that normal humans could do to them, as bullets and gunfire seem ineffective, nor could they even escape, as they easily can catch up and restrain a car as they use their abilities to keep it in place. And unfortunately, as the car is stopped, we see the bad deeds of the Secretary of State finally catch up with her, as she isn't lucky enough to survive because one of the destroyers literally rips a part of her skull off, biting into her head if it was nothing more than tissue paper, killing her instantly. And so the general tries to run away, but with these two supernatural and superpowered creatures and individuals, he doesn't make it very far at all, as he is chained up and dragged back. But before he is able to be taken out next, the comic then goes on to explain and say, violence, fear, pain, horror, they give off kind of a dark frequency, a frequency that the Helverine was attuned to, as we finally see him racing into the battlefield using his powerful claws, cutting the chains in half. And you might be thinking, well, this is a 2-on-1, there's 2 destroyers and only 1 Helverine. Surely the destroyers stand much of a chance, right? But as we literally find out, and the comic goes on to spell it out for us, the destroyers could not outrun nor outmatch him, as one destroyer lunges for him, but the Helverine simply grabs her by her mouthpiece, ripping it open and incapacitating her with one attack, one move. And with her down, he then goes for their ultimate weakness, as in the chest of every destroyer there is a power cell fueled by pure hellfire. This was their beginning and their end, as he plunges his claws into it, making her explode and finally taking her out for good. But it seems like General Harms isn't out of the battle completely. Not yet at least, because he has an ace up his sleeve, a secret weapon that may even be able to harm the Helverine. And yes, being a US general, it is a gun, but no, of course not just a normal gun. It was a rifle loaded with holy water ammo, and it seems like holy water is the kryptonite to anything hellish related, because as the general takes aim, he is able to connect the shot to a distracted Helverine, and as it effortlessly passed through his chest, the Helverine lets out a high-pitched scream, a scream so loud and violent that it made dogs bark, children cry in their sleep to up to 50 miles away. But that wasn't the only thing. Someone else heard it. Someone who has been sniffing the air, tracking the smell of sulfur, Wolverine himself. As we see the holy water bullet actually do damage, taking Dakin out of this Helverine form, all while he slowly starts to lose consciousness and is riding towards a head-on collision with Wolverine as they finally meet face to face after so many years of him being dead. And with Dakin finally succumbing to his wounds, falling to the ground unconscious, Wolverine walks up and takes his son into his arms. But it seems like things aren't over just yet, at least, as Dakin is able to regain some level of consciousness and thinking as he recognizes his father, Logan. But unfortunately for Logan, as he goes to embrace his wounded son, something happened. As you see, at Logan's touch, something sparked inside of Dakin, the entity BAGRA-GHUL, because Logan was the original host and source of power, and it wanted Logan back. And this time, Logan didn't fight it. No, he allowed it. Because in this scenario, it was like a father wishing he could swallow all of the fever and pain from his child to take the burdens onto himself. But unfortunately and unluckily for Wolverine, instead of helping his son, he doomed him, because the only thing that was keeping his son alive was the fuel of BAGRA-GHUL, the fuel of the Helverine. And now with Wolverine accepting this new level of power back, and now becoming the new host of Helverine, his son is left to wither and die back into his original body, which is just really unfortunate for Wolverine. But we will see how this all plays out in the next video as this one comes to a close. Now, if you enjoyed watching, leave a like and leave all your thoughts and comments down below. If you enjoy this type of content, subscribe and put post notifications on. Now, this was the Hero Informer, and as always, thank you for watching.